Hey Anthony, I heard about your fictional novel where 9 boys choose to play as girls in a girls' league. And when I first read the title, Transgender Hoops Identify as Female, I gotta be honest, I was like, oh, I hope he attacked this sensitive subject with the right amount of respect. And absolutely, by all accounts, you've done that. So kudos to you for approaching this subject with your sense of humor and with a storyline that I think a lot of people can see themselves either rooting for the people in it or at least understanding this topic more by seeing it through your lens and these different characters. So, congrats to you, getting amazing reviews on Amazon, and rightfully so for a hilarious story and a gut check ending as well. So, Anthony, keep up the great work. It's been sold out multi times on Amazon, I'm seeing, and Netflix soon after that. So, keep doing great work and just inspiring us all. Thank you, Anthony.
Hey, here we go. Welcome to the Saturday Get Together. Gary Miller and Kevin Cuenca with you on the eve of the Rams back on the road in Motown.
Yeah, Jeff Fisher tells us what to look for against the Rams, and the Trojans try to win their first road game of the season. Plus, Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson put their unbeaten records on the line. But we start in Chicago, game 1 of the NFL.
Tell us a little bit, just a little bit, no spoilers too many here, about the book.
Okay. Well, it's so hard to avoid getting into it, but here's how it goes. The story's about 9 guys, high school boys, that are basically get put in a bad situation by abusive coaches. And I know you've got a kid that plays hockey, so if you've either had at some point in your life a bad coach or you've seen them in action on other teams, and us as parents, it's so hurtful and it makes you so angry. So you get to see what happens, and that's kind of what sparks this whole story. It was written really as a fictional sports novel to get your interest into it, and that's what happens in the story. That's what sparks it. These poor boys have no chance of going to college. They had these great college dreams of playing sports and earning a scholarship. Without that scholarship, they have no chance of going to college. So in rolls into the story two gentlemen that kind of transform and changed these young men's lives. Not in a good way for them, but not in a good way for the rest of the world. And what happens is they find a loophole in the system. And we all know what that loophole is. It's that blind political correctness that enables you to, in 1 second, be able to say, I choose to identify as a female, and now I'm allowed to play in women's sports. I'm allowed to play against girls the next day without taking any hormones, without doing any kind of surgeries, without seeing anyone. You just selectively do it. And that's what sparks the story. These 9 boys have an event that pulls them together from 4 different high schools here in Cincinnati. I won't mess that up. You got to read it to get it. But and they move on and they have great success, and they use, as bad as it is, they end up using that political correctness and that identifying as female as like a force field for them. They're untouchable because everybody knows that the PC sledgehammer will come down on you hard if you buck up against them. So they take advantage of that. Story goes on, and you're really going to have to read it. But the end of the story is that point to where realization hits, and that gut check. And it'll be that gut check for every reader that reads the book about, what have I done? Basically, in the process of doing this to help 9 boys, I've burned Title IX to the ground. I've destroyed women's sports. That's over. So that's kind of, I guess, the little spoiler alert part. That's kind of short version.
Reality.
Yeah.
Reality. We have almost half the states now letting children do this, identify. Great. So Anthony, tell us a bit about how you feel about being called transphobic. There can be a lot of backlash online whenever somebody steps up to defend biology. Have you been harassed at all? Seen any abuse for this?
Yeah, I've had some negative comments about it. That I don't have compassion, or the transphobic's the term that seems like I get tossed that direction, and it seems kind of silly to me, because if anyone who knows me knows, like, I'm one of the most inclusive people you can imagine. I don't try and take on anybody or try and put anybody out of anything. I've always tried to be that way. And in sports, you typically are when you're doing training and everything. It doesn't matter if it's men or women. We kind of work them together when we're practicing and training. But the hard part is, for me, I even go back to when I built my gym here at our facility. My contractors had a son that actually went through full-blown transgender surgery. He was a guy, football player, and he's ended up having surgery changed. Still married to the same person, the same woman, and they were going through hard times. They needed a vehicle. I ended up getting them a vehicle, let them have a vehicle I had. So, if I was some weird, not to toot my own horn there, but if I was some weird person that was like trying to pat somebody down or hurt them in any way, I wouldn't do stuff like that. I just try and be, like I said, inclusive as much as I can on everything. But there's just certain things that aren't negotiable. I mean, you can't trample on the rights of one group for a small group of another people. I mean, that's what I'm seeing across the board. And I know it's got to be the same thing you see. You see it deeper than I do. But you can't just kill the opportunities for women to sacrifice that for such a small group of people that have a unfair advantage, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the feelings of a few can't annihilate the rights of women.
That's exactly right.
It's Title IX that we've worked so hard to have, and we're just kind of slipping backwards if we all don't wake up here.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, in the end, it's just words, and we brush it off and we move forward, right?
Right. That's me. It's like I tell people all the time, I'm 60 years old, so say all you want about me. It's not really that big a deal. But I just felt that it was important to put this book out, just as a wake up call. One of the people that reviewed my book said, reminiscent of George Orwell's 1984. That it was a Hall of Fame author, and it was so nice, because what his point was, that you've got to look at the future right now. If you don't change it, it's changing so rapidly you won't be able to stop it. And that's kind of my whole point of making this so extreme in the book. But I had another person, not to ramble on here, but that their review was, this is a blueprint on how to undermine and hijack women's sports. And it really is. And as sad as that is.
It shows the floodgate that we would be opening.
Yeah.
If we continue. It's certainly a real threat that I think a lot of people almost think it's a joke when we tell them that males are invading female sports.
Well, Beth, honest to God, I went to a Thanksgiving event with my daughter up at her college in Holland, Michigan, and to a group of senior citizens, all retirees. I gave them a copy of my book to each one of them. And when they read it, the reviews they sent me were insane. They're like, I had no idea, Anthony, this stuff was going on in our world. And they were like, now I started to look. And so their eyes have been opened that this is occurring, and it's happening every day. The more you search, the deeper you find. And I don't know how many people are on your site. How many guys are competing as girls now? I don't know what your numbers are.
Well over 50 of them that I know.
Oh my gosh.
Internationally, all levels of sports, all different sports. It's insane. And it is just the beginning. I mean, we will see in 2020, I think a lot of people aren't aware that the Olympics are allowing males to enter into the women's category, not requiring any surgery, simply lowering testosterone for a little period of time.
Yeah.
Reality will really sink in when we see a man collecting women's gold at the Olympics.
Yeah, I agree with you.
There, but it might be what it takes to wake some people up.